Hey guys, this is Cody. I know I haven't posted a video on this channel in months. It's been far too long, but I'm back here once again, and I am planning on posting a whole lot more videos on this channel now over the next upcoming months. I know I've said that I said that I was going to be posting a lot more videos on this channel, and then I didn't. But this time I really do mean it. I've got a whole lot more videos coming, a lot of new music related videos. I got some DVD reviews. I'm going to be reading more music biographies and doing book reviews on those and things like that. So yeah, I'm back here once again. And to kickstart my new videos, I thought I would do a review on a music biography that I just finished reading, and it's a biography of one of the greatest rock and roll bands of all time. If you guys are looking at my shirt, you guys can probably tell what band I'm talking about. But the book I'm doing a review of is When Giants Walk the Earth, a biography of Led Zeppelin written by Mick Wall. And yeah, I just finished reading this, I think, about last month, and I've got a lot of things to say about it. Now, before I get into it, I want to say, for my book reviews, I'm not going to go into every single detail about the book. I'm basically just going to talk a bit about different things that happened during the book that stood out to me, and then I'll tell you guys whether or not I recommend this book or not. Now, this book, as you know, tells the story of Led Zeppelin. It starts off with Jimmy Page, in his old band, the Yardbirds, and it talks about him getting the band started, and them starting to play and starting to get popular and things like that. And it does describe the early days of Jimmy Page very, very well. This book goes into a lot about Jimmy Page's life, mostly because you can really tell that he was sort of in some way you could call him, I guess, the mastermind of Led Zeppelin. In some way, he was the one that really started the band, and without Jimmy Page, Led Zeppelin may not have even happened. And it talks a lot about him in his early days, his early life, and things like that. And then it goes into him starting the band, the Yardbirds, and then goes on to Led Zeppelin. One thing about this book that I've noticed, and this is one thing about this book that I think a lot of people complain about, is it goes into a lot of detail about his interest in the occult. And it seems like a lot of things that happened in this book, the author goes back to Jimmy Page in, his interest in the occult may have, may have been the reason why events happened. If something bad happened in in the story of Led Zeppelin, then the author goes back to Jimmy's interest in the occult and saying that might have been a reason why something happened. And even though Jimmy's interest in the occult and interest in Aleister Crowley was a important part in Led Zeppelin, I don't think it influenced every single thing that he did, every single decision. And I can really tell why a lot of people did not like that he goes into so much detail about it, because he does talk a lot about it. He talks about how right when Led Zeppelin was first getting started and Jimmy started getting money, he actually bought tons of first edition books that Aleister Crowley, that he wrote. He talks about where he lived in houses that Aleister Crowley used to own and things like that. So for that aspect of the book, I can understand why some people didn't like it, but I can also understand why it's important, because obviously the occult was important to Jimmy Page, and thereby it influenced his music and his work in Led Zeppelin. But of course, it goes into a lot of detail about the rest of the band members as well. You can tell, from the beginning of the book, you can tell that John Paul Jones was always the quiet one. He was never truly an outspoken member of the band. He was kind of going through it with the band, and if something good happens, then he's there with them, and if not, then he's not really, and if not, then he kept to himself a lot. They talk about how when they used to go to parties, and when the album started coming out and the band started getting big, and you can tell that John Paul really wasn't into it as much as the rest of the band members, and he's really quiet, and he just kept to himself, and he seemed like a really shy type of person. That's what I got out of, in this book. It also goes into a lot about John Bonham and how much he drank, and how did he drink. According to some of the band members, he drank just as much, if not more, than what the other band members did, and that he would just drink and drink and drink. But that is just one thing that, influenced him and made John Bonham the amazing and influential drummer that he is today. He's definitely one of the greatest, probably the greatest rock and roll drummer of all time, and you can tell that he lived that to the fullest. He lived, the way he played his drums fast and loud was the way that he lived his life, fast and loud. If he wasn't playing drums, he was off getting drunk, or he was off racing cars, and that's just what made John Bonham the person he was. And so, I really, I have the utmost respect for John Bonham, and the utmost respect for the rest of the band members, and you can really tell what John went through, and you can tell that his pain that he went through when they were out on the road and he wasn't able to be with his wife or be with his son, Jason. You can really tell it really hurt him that he wasn't able to do it, and it really, really made him sad. And that's why he drank. He drank to get away from that pain. And, it really does, when it gets to the part in which, he passes away, it is a pretty emotional part of the book. And I'm sure a lot of fans of Led Zeppelin will be emotional during that scene and during that part and be, very sad on it. But then, after John Bonham passes away, during that part, this is when it goes back to Jimmy Page's interest in the occult. Because for some reason, after they talk about John Bonham passing away, the author ends up going back and making a reference to Jimmy Page's interest in the occult, and of how that his interest sort of led to bad karma, and somehow that was related to John Bonham dying. I'm not quite 100% sure if that's what the author meant by it, but that's what I got on it. And that's another problem that I think that a lot of people will have with this book, is that he seems to focus too much on that. And he seems to say, that all the bad things that happened with the band was somehow related to Jimmy Page's interest in the occult. However, I will say that a lot of things that Jimmy Page did that is in this book, it does sound as if the things that he did could have possibly caused things to happen within the band. And, you don't really know how much influence the occult had in Led Zeppelin until you read a book about Jimmy Page, or you read this, and then when you do find out, it's a lot. But, I haven't showed off the back yet. Yeah. Now, the book is mostly written the same way all books are written, but there is something in the book that I want to point out. At the very beginning, or in the middle, or even at the end of a lot of the books, there are sections of the book that is written in italics right here, as you can see. And basically what this is that it's supposed to be the author of the book. He wanted to have sections of the book where it would be the certain band member or the certain person that they're talking about. It was their inner thoughts, and this entire thing was the inner thoughts. Like right here in this section, it's John Paul Jones, and it's supposed to be his inner thoughts, and you can tell that the person is talking to themselves as themselves. Like I'll read a passage right here. In this first section, it says, "You'd been John Paul Jones for 4 years now, and you still weren't any more famous than you'd been as plain old John Baldwin. What was the bloody point? How had it come to this? Churning out nonsense for Harry, I won't go on, but basically what it's supposed to be is it's supposed to be the inner thoughts of that member of the band, or Peter Grant, or whoever they are talking about. And a lot of people have complained because they always wonder, well, the author of this book can't know exactly how that person was thinking at the time. And in some way, I kind of don't like that he did it this way, because you never know what that person was actually thinking. But at the same time, he actually based these sections on full interviews and quotes from the actual member, or from Paul, or from not Paul, or for Peter Grant. So in a way, it's based on fact, but most of what is written in italics is basically made up by the author. It's fictional, but it's based on fact. He didn't make up something that the member or Peter Grant would have thought of in his head and said, "Oh, I'm just gonna pretend that he thought of this." No, it's not like that at all. He got these passages from interviews and quotes from that person, and then he put them as if it's the person thinking it. Like during the scenes when things are going wrong in Led Zeppelin close to the end. He has passages of like Robert Plant talking about what he thinks about the band and what's going on, and why he doesn't agree with things, and he has it written like if he was to say that he didn't like something, then in italics it would say, "I don't like that this is happening. I don't like that this is going on." And it's supposedly the person's inner thoughts, and like I said, in some way I do like that, in some way I don't. But I think I'd prefer if it was just written like any other biography. But at the same time, when you read stuff like that and it was that person's inner thoughts, it really gives you a better feel of who they are. Especially with Jimmy Page, there's a lot of things like that, because in the italics, you read about it, what Jimmy Page thought of when he was starting Led Zeppelin, what he wanted to do with the band, what he wanted to accomplish, and you can really tell that in the italic sections of the book, and there's a lot of them in there. There's also some really, really nice pictures as well, which I won't really go into. Some of them are black and white, some of them are color. But the book basically goes all the way up until the death of John Bonham and the end of the band, and then it continues all throughout all the reunions, the 1985 reunion of Robert Plant and Jimmy Page, and all the way up to the O2 Arena show, the actual Led Zeppelin reunion show that they did, which was the last show that Led Zeppelin did when they reformed, the first and only show that the original lineup did with Jason Bonham at the O2 Arena. So it is pretty, I think this book was, this came out in 2000, I want to say 8. So it does give all full detail about Led Zeppelin when they were a band, and it does give detail about, what was going on with them during their solo albums, during their solo tours, what Robert Plant is doing now, and it does give detail about their final show, their final reunion show in at the O2 Arena. So, yeah, can I recommend this book? Absolutely. I think it's a really great, well-written biography. In other reviews that I've read, I've heard that this book is the most well-liked book of all the other books that I read. I actually read on Amazon reviews and things like that, and a lot of people have said that they really, really do enjoy this book over, let's say, Hammer of the Gods by Stephen Davis. And I think that this is probably the most liked book. It had the most stars on Amazon. So yeah, if you're a fan of Led Zeppelin, looking for a great book that goes into a lot of great detail. It tells the history of the rock and roll that was going on during that time in the late '60s. And if you want to know exactly pretty much all the details, everything about the life of Led Zeppelin, from their rise to fame to their fall, then I highly recommend checking this book out. Like I said, there's different things that I'm sure people won't like the references to Jimmy Page's interest in the occult, or the sort of thought bubbles. I like to call them thought bubbles because they seem like they're inner thoughts of that person. I know that a lot of people will not like that for several reasons, But other than that, I do think that this is a very, very well-rounded, very, very good biography, and I'd highly recommend it to anybody that wants to pick it up. It's pretty cheap over on Amazon, and I've seen it at Barnes& Nobles. So yeah, anyway, guys, that was my review for When Giants Walk the Earth, a biography of Led Zeppelin by Mick Wall. If you guys have read this book, definitely let me know if you guys have read it, and what you guys think about it. And I hope that I helped you guys out and decide whether or not you want to pick up this book. Anyway, guys, I'm glad to be back on this channel. I've got a lot more videos coming soon over the next week and over the next month, so stay tuned for those. And thanks to everybody who has subscribed to this channel. I know I haven't posted anything new, but I'm back. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.